Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'm pleased to join my partner from Battle River Crowfoot on speaking on Bill C-83, and I have gotten up in this House a number of times and spoken on it in the past, and I was on the committee that overlooked Bill C-83, an act to amend the Corrections, the Conditional Release Act, and another act. This has been a bad act right from the beginning, Mr. Speaker, and the Liberals didn't listen to very many people. They wrote the act, they brought it before committee, and they kind of forced upon it, as they are today, forcing us in the second last day that Parliament is sitting, they're forcing us to speak on the amendments that have been brought in by the Senate, the review. They don't like them, but they want to push this through. Now, right from the beginning, when we started Bill C-83 in our committee, a number of witnesses came through. And I'm just going to throw a few from my old speech. John Howard Society said it was bad. Elizabeth Fry Society said it was bad. We had a 19-year prisoner who even admitted to being a pretty bad guy that was there. And he said there was parts of this bill that was bad, and that he was the type of person that needed to be protected and needed to be put into the segregation unit to protect him from the guards and from other prisoners and even from himself. So these are just some. And British Columbia Civil Liberties said it was a bad bill. Native Women's Association said it was a bad bill. So there was a number. Now we have it brought before us, again, as I said, second day before House rises for the summer. Corrections Union. A number of witnesses have gotten up today. My friend from Battle River Crowfoot just mentioned his union wasn't spoken to. Very much like his union, the institution at Drumheller is a or medium security. I have a medium security facility in the town of Grand Cache in the Great Riding of Yellowhead. Now, it's probably one of the most beautiful jail settings in North America. It's on top of a mountain overlooking the Rocky Mountains. There are a large number of Aboriginal prisoners there. As I said, it's a medium security facility, but when I speak to the guards there, and I know some of them very well, some of them went to school with my daughter years ago, they are very concerned that they were not consulted properly, and that it will, if enacted the way it is, Bill 83, will make it dangerous for the guards. And that, Mr. Speaker, to me, is totally unacceptable. The change will make prisoners more dangerous for the guards, as they will have to deal with the worst of the worst and the most volatile being out and about from their cells for 4 hours a day. Now, I totally agree that things need to change, and we need to take and be civil and be human on how we treat the prisoners. Now, I'm going to tell a little story here. Many years ago, I had the privilege to be on what the RCMP called the provo duty. And I escorted prisoners throughout British Columbia and Western Canada back and forth from remand centers, from detachments to prisons, etc. And I got to know many of these individuals on a personal basis, and many times I traveled 200 or 300 miles with 3 prisoners and myself. Now, you could be a real dick, and those guys would hate you when you get to the destination, or you could be a decent individual, have a conversation with them, treat them decently, with respect and dignity, and you could have a 200 or a 300-mile drive with 3 prisoners.
I'm just curious to see what the translation for that word was. I don't think it was very parliamentary, and I realize this is probably the member's last speech, so I won't call him on it. I'll let him continue.
My last speech, I do apologize to myself, but it was just the terminology that slipped out at the time. Years ago, we learned that you had to you had to give respect to the prisoners. You had to treat them properly. And that is no different today. Now, I realize Bill C-83 is trying to do that in a number of areas. But as our colleagues from the Senate have said, there are some things that need to be corrected. And I hate to say it, but they're not listening again. The Liberal government is not listening again. Now, my primary purpose in getting up today is to say the women and men that work in our institutions do a great job for our country. They are a fantastic group of people. And in many cases, even more so a lot of times than police officers that are out on the street or our military that might be defending some country somewhere, these guys are right on the front lines. A lot of our prisoners are just everyday common type of people, you know, and you don't need to worry too much about them. They're civil, you can have great conversations with them, you can joke around with them. But we do have some real bad apples there. Some have mental problems. Some are just downright mean. Some are can be rehabilitated. Some, and I'm going back 50 years of experience, Mr. Speaker, cannot be rehabilitated, do not want to be rehabilitated, and that's where the problem becomes with this segregation part. Now, I know the Supreme Court has ruled that we need to change our policies. We need to give them more rights. But that will come to a cost to the country to do so. And I guess we'll have to accept that because that's what's been ruled. But the primary thing is my friends, my constituents that work at Grand Cache facility, I want them to be safe. That's primary to me. It's primary. I want the average prisoner that's there because maybe he got picked up for impaired driving, maybe something minor. He's not really a bad person or she's not a bad person. I want them to be very safe in our institutions, Mr. Speaker. That is my primary concern. So I ask my colleagues across, you have been given a number of recommendations from the Senate that I think that you need to address, that you cannot ignore. Now, one of them, I didn't pick all of them up, and I'm not going to deal with all of them, but there were one that I kind of thought that I would just spend a little bit of time talking about, and that's where the Senate said that the authority should be left with the institution as to the movement of a prisoner to a provincial institution. Now, that is only rational, good, common sense, Mr. Speaker. Now, I'm not knocking professional health people. They do a great job for us. But I'll tell you, we have some great con artists in our jails that could sweet talk you, Mr. Chair, into letting them sit up there and you take their place. That's how good they are. I know you'd never get caught for that, but that's how good. That is where my fear comes in. The institution staff know these people. They're dealing with them 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They know how slick they can be. But a medical professional coming in, maybe for an hour, 2 hours, maybe 3 hours a week, can get baffled. That's why I think that was a very wise decision, came back from the Senate. It's a common sense correction, and yet it's being ignored. Mr. Speaker, thank you for the time so that I could stand up here and defend my institutional guards in Grand Cache and others across this country. They do a great job for us. Get rid of the needles. I'm not going any further with that. Biggest mistake we ever made. Thank you.